Hey guys, Kristen Zaki here, and this is my third video blog. This one is about Google Apps and Google Plus. And the ISTE standards that these two meet is Standard 3A. We model effective classroom management and collaborative learning strategies to maximize teacher and student use of digital tools. And we collaborate with others to evaluate digital tools and resources that enhance teaching and learning and are compatible with school technology infrastructure. Why I like Google Apps and Google Plus is, first of all, it's free, which I think is very important, and it's easy to access. I really like that for most parts of Google you can access it on any computer. You just log into it and it is there. And with Google Apps, there's a wide variety of available apps. There's some that are just for productivity, some that are just for scheduling, but I also use a lot of apps in my science classroom with the interactive 3D views of the human body. Some of them have really good animations of like an individual cell or a muscle tissue and things like that, and I really do like those in my classroom a lot. But also there's a ton that are just there to keep you organized and just help with making your life a little bit easier, making productivity a little bit better. Problems that I've encountered, Google Plus and Google Apps is the tool that I use on a regular basis that I have had the most problems with. I actually this year switched from Edmodo to Google Plus and Google Classroom because I was excited about the availability and excited about all the glitches that were going to be worked out, and I've had nothing but problems this year. The first problem, I have access as a teacher on our domain to Google Classroom, but we do not create individual accounts for our students to have email addresses on our domain, so my students don't have access to Google Classroom. So it's useless for me. I have no way. I can get on there and create an awesome class, but my students have no access to it. So Google Classroom I can't even use right now, and I'm trying to get that changed in my school, but it's proven to be a more difficult battle than I thought it would be to get our students access to an email address. And then some of the apps are blocked through our school internet, and I don't think this is just a Google issue that teachers will have or have had. This is just kind of across the board. You figure out something at home or on your teacher computer and then you assign it to your students and they don't have access at school. So that's not something that is just related to Google, but I have noticed it with a couple of the science apps especially that I try to get my students to use. Google Plus and Google Apps is completely brand new to my students. They have never used Google in this way before. They've only used Google as a search engine, so it is completely brand new to them, and I'm struggling to get my students to take that initiative and try to figure it out. They literally want me to tell them step by step what to do, and if some box pops up, they won't even try until they raise their hand and ask me what they should do. So it's brand new to my students, and they're starting to get it figured out, but again, they're just not taking that initiative to figure it out like if it was a brand new video game that they would. But again, I teach middle school and high school students, so that does play a factor into that as well. And also, something that I found out just doing this video blog is that I don't have access to my Google Apps on any computer. Everything else through Google, Google Drive, and Google Plus, all of that you can access on any computer at any time, but Google Apps, I do not have access to my school domain apps at home. Even if I log into my school email address, my school Google account, they're not there. So I actually can't show you the apps that I have and that I use, but that is a problem that I didn't even know I had until I did this video blog. And the reason for that is anytime I use my Google Apps, I'm using my school computer, so I didn't even realize that I couldn't get on those on any other computer. For Google Plus, the main reason I use Google Plus, again, I stopped using Edmodo and I used Google Plus. I wanted to use Google Classroom for my classroom management, and I knew it was going to be coming out within the first couple weeks of class, so I figured if I'd set up a Google community, then it would be an easy transition for my students into a Google Classroom because they would already kind of know how to do things, how to set up a Google Drive account, and how to share that stuff with me. But then, like I said earlier, my school does not have access to Google Classrooms for our students because we do not have them on our domain, so on our email domain. So I'm exclusively using Google Community, and some issues that I've had with using a Google Community as a classroom management site. As you can see here, this is one of the assignments that they had to do. They had to perform a virtual surgery, and that was using a link to an app. Again, my students don't have access to Google Apps, so I have to use them as links, and then I have them comment here, and they are not alphabetized. And I only have 15 students in that class, so it's not a huge deal that they're not alphabetized, but when I get to my middle school FACS class and I have 80 students, it's a lot more difficult when they're not alphabetized for me. So I'm not a huge fan of that. And then also when they link on their a document, if I have them create a Google document or a Google presentation or a Google spreadsheet, anything like that, and I have them post it on there, they need to remember to share it with me, and then I have to click on their link. It's not just right there like it is in Edmodo. And these are just things that I think if I had Google Classroom, it would work a lot better. But again, I'm stuck without Google Classroom, at least for the time being. But this is how I use my Google Community. I do have different links here under the About This Community. And I do like that I can easily share links there, and I can attach with their assignment those links and things like that. I do like Google Community, it's just not working out as efficiently as I was hoping that it would. To create student accounts, this was another process that took more steps than I was hoping that it would. I had my students create Gmail accounts, and then I had them write those down. Again, I teach middle school students, so we forget those a lot. So they created a Google account, and then they emailed me and they said, invite me to whatever class they're in, and then I had to go in and copy and paste their email address into an invite for the Google Community. I didn't want to open up the community for the public to view where it was searchable, because they are middle school students and it does have their first and last name on it, so I wanted it to be completely private in that sense, and that was the easiest way that I found out to do that. But it's not like Edmodo or any other classroom management site like Moodle, where you get a classroom code and then the student does more work. I actually had to do more work to get my students involved in this process. Turning in assignments, they can do one of two things. They can comment on an assignment just like I showed you before, or they can create something in Google Drive, a spreadsheet or a document or a presentation. But then they have to put it in their shared folder, and that shared folder that we created the first day of class has access for me to edit, and I can add comments. And I really like that I can add comments to their paper. I haven't done any research papers yet this year, but I will in a couple of months. And last year I did research papers for my science class, and it was really nice that I could edit and put my comments right on their paper and then have them come back and change those and then resolve those problems. So that worked out really nice, and we could both be working on it at the same time. So if they say, Ms. Zaki, I'm having trouble coming up with something here, I can look at what they're typing and I can see it real time while they're typing it, and I really do like that. I do have an issue with my students remembering to share their documents. They'll get into Google Drive without a problem now, create a document, create a presentation, whatever I'm asking them to do, but then they don't get it into their shared folder. Even though I've showed them multiple times that if you're in that folder and then you create one, it is automatically shared. Somehow that step gets forgotten, or they forget to transfer it into that folder where I have access to it. But how I resolve that issue is I send them a quick email and say, on Fridays I do my grading, send them an email on Friday that says, hey, I don't have access to this, this, and this, and then they're usually pretty quick about getting that turned around for me, so I do have access to their grade book. Grading assignments is the other thing that is a little more difficult in Google+. We're in a Google community specifically. I have to look at all of their assignments. I have to open up each of their documents, and then it opens up in a new tab, whereas something like Edmodo would just open it up in the Edmodo web page, and then I have to manually enter my grades into our school grade book. But it wouldn't matter what classroom management system I use, I have to enter those in manually, so that's not a big deal. There are, you can create self-grading forms, and there's a ton of stuff on the internet right now about these self-grading forms, but I like to ask very open-ended questions and make my students really think about their answers and give me a broad answer. I don't ever do multiple choice. I rarely do matching, and short answer, or fill in the blank. I don't really do that either. Most of my answers are short answer. My students hate them. I love them. But to do that in a form is just, it's crazy. There's just way too many words, way too many students trying to answer on one form that I'm trying to grade. So I haven't found that to be successful for my classroom. I do work with somebody who uses these for his math class, and he likes it a lot. But again, he's looking for one specific answer, whereas I'm looking for their ideas and what they're coming up with. So that's a little bit different there as well. And Google Plus, again, I've had a lot of successes with Google Plus and Google Apps, but I have had my fair share of troubles with this too. So this is something that I continue to talk to my colleagues about, and I'm really excited about what Google has to offer, but there are some setbacks, especially in my district, without having our students be on our Google domain where they can access Google Classroom. But I am eagerly anticipating the time when I can actually use Google Classroom. But this is definitely something that I promote to my colleagues, and I think is a great tool for classroom management and to keep us organized, to easily share documents with other colleagues or with students, with parents, things like that. And it is a way for students to turn in their assignments as well. So I've really had a lot of fun using the new Google stuff that's available.